Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's Resistance Live for the 9th of October, 2019. Here we are still. It's a cloudy day in California. I'm talking about the weather because I'm giving you all like a chance to log in. But I should make a very quick announcement for those of you who are watching on the replay, which is that we are going to run our Rise Activist Leader Bootcamp for the 7th time this fall. Class starts on November 11th. You have a little more than a month to get your registration done for that. Many of you will remember, if you've been here for a long time, that this program started in 2017 by a lot of demand on how to actually use your voice for change. And we started with a small program. We've now trained more than 625 people, men, women, non-binary folks, in this program. And really want to encourage those of you who are frustrated, upset, scared going into 2020 to consider doing this. We do have scholarships available. If you want to go check it out, you can head on over to GaiaLeadershipProject.com/rise. Again, that's GaiaLeadershipProject.com/rise. Scholarship window is open until the 30th of October. But we're looking really to get to 1,000 people. We sort of are feeling like, if we can train 1,000 great activist leaders between now and the beginning of 2020, that's an awesome goal. So again, if you want to get in on that, we'd love to have you. And I'm sure, our alums, we have a video of all of our alums talking about their experiences in the program so far on the page. So if you want to check out Rise between now and the end of the registration period, please do so. GaiaLeadershipProject.com/rise. Okay. And I should mention, it's usually 8 weeks. We're going to do it in 10 so that we can have 2 weeks off for the holidays this year. So just don't worry, you won't lose Thanksgiving. And, by the way, Hanukkah, Christmas, and Kwanzaa are all in the same week this year. So that whole week will be off from the program, and we hope you will join us. All right. So, okay. It's one of those days where I have to get on and say, again, I'm not here to make it better than it is. Cause it's bad, and you all know that I like to come on here and not gaslight anybody, not be too optimistic, I'm here to tell it like it is. So I just want to make it really clear. Okay. And I said this a lot on Twitter last night. There are some commentators out there, non-lawyers, it should be said, who take this a little bit less seriously than some of the rest of us. But this letter that the White House counsel sent over to the Congress last night, I've been thinking about how to put words to it on the broadcast because, the thing that I am the most concerned about right now, and the thing that really was dramatically brought home by this letter is the absolute refusal of the entire executive branch at this point to recognize, let alone comply with the law. The idea that the president just said participating in this impeachment inquiry is that. And the thing that should concern all of us about that is that if he's willing to not pay any attention to the law on impeachment, who's to say he's going to pay attention to the law on elections? Who's to say he's going to pay attention to the term limits that exist for the presidency? And so, I can't downplay what the content of this letter was. Like, no less than George Conway. We all had our moments with him, don't get me wrong, but he last night said what I was thinking in a much shorter way. I was tweeting about this for like 2 hours last night, but he said, it's constitutionally and legally trash. That letter is constitutional trash and legal trash. And the fact that the president thinks he has a leg to stand on with it is appalling. The problem, however, is that if there's no pushback, if there's no impeachment vote, if there's no dragging him out of the White House in handcuffs for refusing to comply with congressional requests, he is functionally above the law. Basically, the message that is being sent then is that he can do whatever he wants. And as we have seen repeatedly now, I want to remind you all, the Ukraine situation started at the moment where he thought he was off the hook with Robert Mueller. If the message that he gets is that he is stepped over the line and nothing happens, he's going to go further. And, to me, this particular moment, this particular letter is a terrifying new stage in where we find ourselves. I am of the opinion at this moment in time, notwithstanding that it's Yom Kippur, and by the way, I just want to say hi to everybody who's fasting today. I know it's not easy. And by the way, atonement is a good thing. And so, to all who are observing, I see you. One of the things that I just want to say about all of this at this moment in time is that I do not understand why they have not scheduled a vote. The House is out of session today through today. I do not understand why they have not scheduled a vote for tomorrow or Friday. I don't understand it. It makes no sense. Like no less than Ted Lieu last night, who's, a representative, said on Twitter, we have the ability to sanction people for refusing to comply with congressional requests. Why aren't we using it? There's literally no effective pushback right now on the president just simply ignoring the law. And, if you ignore the law and you're the president of the United States, you're not really the president anymore. You're kind of more like a king or an autocrat. And, no less than Fox News was broadcasting last night about how this is regicide, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, means killing the king. He's not the king. He's not the king. But if he refuses to comply with the law and there's no sanction that is attached to that of any kind, he functionally is operating as one. He can do whatever the hell he wants. And, so from where I sit, I'm very concerned. And, you all know, especially if you've been watching me for nearly 3 years now, you all know that I don't come on here when I'm very concerned and lie about it. I'm very concerned. To me yesterday, I had multiple moments where it just literally felt like screaming into the void to say if they do not do something, all bets are off, and I really try not to be melodramatic about this, but seriously, it's now within the realm of possibility that there might not even be an election next year if somebody doesn't do something on the congressional side of the fence to hold him accountable. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he'll just be like, why do we need it? Or it'll be a sham election. By the way, somebody sent me this horrific article, which I'm waiting to repost because it just traumatized me too much, from Forbes magazine that came out in the last week of September, where there is a company that has done a study on the new capacities that Russia has built in the last 3 years to interfere with the elections, and the way in which it's structured is multiple cells so they don't really communicate with each other because then code can be tracked. And the massive financial investment that Russia has put into their capacity to cyber influence and disrupt elections, it's freaking terrifying. And, that's on top of the fact that we have a president sitting in the Oval who apparently only does what Putin wants. So, from the standpoint of devolution, this is an incredibly frightening moment. And, yesterday was my day of I said this on Twitter last night before I went to bed, feeling like my hair was on fire at the nature of the lines that were being crossed in that letter. And that's leaving aside what's happening in Syria this morning. So, you all know that there had been some news reports within 24 hours of the president saying that we were, he was giving permission to Erdogan to go marching into Syria to murder the Kurds. Okay. As of late last night, early this morning, depending on where you are in the United States, Erdogan announced that that's exactly what he's doing. And lo and behold, within the last 2 hours, there is footage and reports of air raids as well as ground invasion to go in and kill the Kurds. It's genocide. I just want to make this really clear. What the president has enabled here is genocide. Lindsey Graham is back on his wishy-washy side of the fence at the moment, by the way, screaming at the Trump administration on Twitter about this particular series of events. Of course, he has been the president's enabler and collaborator for the last 3 years, so he's got blood on his hands as well. But, I want to reiterate what I've said about this since Monday, and it is this. The reality of where we are on this front as well is profoundly dangerous. The destabilization of that particular region of the world, let alone the fact that the Turks at the moment are being backed by the Russians, is terrifying. It's terrifying. You add to that there are 10,000 ISIS fighters that were currently being held in Syria, which apparently now may have just been let out, because the U.S. is no longer taking responsibility for working with the Kurds to detain them. It is a series of falling dominoes right now that are incredibly frightening. And, look, the other thing I'm going to say about this, which feels really important to say at this moment in time, I heard from a number of you this morning, private messages and on the Patreon feed, that you are calling senators and the phones are being picked up, and that there doesn't seem to be any wait. And, the question I have to ask right now is, why are you not on the phone? I mean, be here watching me, right? But like, if you haven't made your phone calls, you really need to do it. Like, there are moments where this is more urgent than others. This is the moment where it's really, really, really urgent. Like, he needs to be removed. Like, people are dying. People have died before. People are being held in detention camps inside the United States. We all know that. I've done a lot of work on that issue in particular. This situation in Syria is extremely grave. And there is a desperate need at this moment in time for everyone on the Hill to know how we feel about this. Both the White House letter as well as Syria. And I will just say this, please call Nancy Pelosi. Just call her. I mean, I know where we've been on all of this. I personally, I just do not understand what the holdup is. They have evidence of him confessing on tape. They have evidence of him calling for interference in the election on the White House lawn. They have evidence of obstruction of justice in a letter that was sent to them yesterday. He confessed on Twitter every day this week to doing conduct that's illegal. There's no wait. There's no wait. There should be no wait. There should be no waiting. There is no more time to wait. So I'm frustrated and upset this morning, as you can tell, but I want to encourage all of you to really do what you can today. All right, a couple of other legal developments yesterday that you should all be aware of. There was a hearing yesterday on the Mueller grand jury materials. You'll remember that a couple of the House committees are trying to get their hands, including Judiciary, trying to get their hands on the grand jury testimony that was taken in the Mueller investigation. Please remember that grand jury materials are ordinarily confidential, and that's the reason why we're in court here. Well, the Trump administration made a really wild argument yesterday that basically the precedent that required the Nixon tapes to be turned over to the Congress was wrongly decided. Basically, the argument that they made was that the courts had railroaded Nixon and that Nixon shouldn't have been impeached. They literally made that argument in a court of law. Now, the response from the judge was absolutely, wow, okay, you're really out on a limb here. That's an indication that this judge is not going to buy that argument. But, everyone should understand that they're pushing at every level they can right now to try to undermine the legal system in this country from every possible angle, and that is one of them. I don't think they're going to have a lot of luck with that particular argument, but it is a sign of where we are, right? That the arguments that were being made yesterday on every level are about as extreme as you can get, including the ones that they're walking into court to try to make with the DOJ lawyers. Okay, the other issue that you should be aware of from yesterday, and Rachel interviewed Barbara McQuade, who I adore, by the way, just a phenomenal lawyer, interviewed Barbara McQuade last night on the show about the president potentially throwing Pence under the bus. And a couple of you asked a question as to why that would be the case. So let me just say this, one of the things we have to remember here, and again, those of you who've been watching the broadcast for the better part of the last 3 years, even if you joined in 2018, you've seen me talk about this. Part of the issue here is how the dominoes fall on impeachment. The president and the DOJ, by the way, through the U.S. Attorney's Office, in this case about Trump's taxes, walked into court and basically argued that the country could live without a vice president, that the vice president was not subject to the same degree of immunity. And by the way, their immunity arguments are bullshit, just so you know, don't have a leg to stand on, no legal precedent for that. But that the country could live without a vice. So the vice shouldn't be subject to the same degrees of immunity that the president is. And the natural outcome is to be the president saying, you can impeach Mike Pence. Go ahead, impeach Mike Pence. He can be investigated. So you have to ask yourself, why would he do that? Well, let me just tell you why he'd do that. Because if Pence is impeached first and Trump does not nominate a new vice president that is approved by a supermajority of both the House and the Senate, the post stays open. And then the result, if Trump is then impeached, is that Nancy Pelosi is president. In some sense, what appears to be the case is that the president is gambling on the idea that even if the GOP would vote to impeach him to get a President Pence, they will not vote to impeach him in the event that it's Nancy Pelosi. It's a gamble, but it's the argument that he seems to be making. So, the throwing Pence under the bus thing that we're starting to see, and it's not just in this court case, by the way. I mean, let's not forget that he was the person to shout out Pence last week several times with regard to Ukraine. Part of what seems to be happening here is that there is an argument being made that that Pence is expendable. and that, you know, it's going to be all or nothing. I mean, we know Trump likes this mass polarization. If it's Nancy Pelosi versus him, he's betting the GOP is not going to vote to remove him. So that's what's going on there. All right. Those are my 4 topics for today, and I could have added a lot more. Well, let me just say a couple of other things really quick. There is an Esquire article that dropped this morning that alleges 43 new allegations of sexual assault against the president. 43 new, previously unreported allegations of sexual assault against the president. You can go and read it. I just retweeted it right before we went on the air. Yes, Sophie. She plainly wants to be heard today. So you can go find that if you would care to look at it. I am not going to comment on the Matt Lauer allegations. I said this a couple of minutes ago. I'm too angry. I'm too angry about the response. I'm too angry about the fact that it took so long. I'm too angry. So I'm not going to comment on that. It was the first thing I read when I woke up, and I am not going there yet. Okay, so you're all going to have to wait on that particular one. So final message for today is this. Please make your phone calls. And I will just add, I said this at the top of the broadcast when we didn't have everybody on. We are running our RISE Activist Leader Bootcamp again this fall. We were not planning on doing it. We are doing it because there are a lot of you out there, by the way, who have asked for it, who either want to run through it again as alums or who are desperate at this point in time for more messaging, clearer messaging, and strategy for how you're going to walk into 2020. So it's up and open, GaiaLeadershipProject.com/rise. Yes, there are scholarships. The scholarship application process closes on the 30th of October. And you know, we've done 625 women and men and non-binary people in this program already. We really want to get to 1,000 heading into 2020. Thank you, Deborah, for the highly recommended program. Our alums will tell you that this is a game changer. We really recommend that you get in. So you can check it out. GaiaLeadershipProject.com/rise. Registration is open. Applications for scholarships are open. And I hope to see as many of you on the inside. We start class on the 11th of November, 2 weeks off for holidays. So it's going to be 10 full weeks this time instead of 8. All right. Much love to all of you. I will be live tweeting as much as I can today. I'm at a big event tonight in Los Angeles, but I will do my very best to stay tuned. I will talk to all of you tomorrow, regular time. All right. Much love. Bye.